morning, class. Welcome. I am Teacher Micah, and I'll be your teacher for today. How are you? Very good. Are you excited for another day of fun and learning? If yes, then please sit properly, ready your pen and paper to take down important notes, and listen attentively. Now, are you ready to learn, class? Very good. Now, let's dig for healthy food on the table. Are you ready to explore the world of agriculture, particularly in planting vegetables, children? Brilliant! Today we'll be going to an exciting planting. Are you excited to go in the garden? Great! Let's not waste our time anymore and let's go! Children, look at the empty lawn. What can you say about the empty lawn? That's right. So, what can we do in order for us to make it as useful? Brilliant! Who among you have garden at home? Wow! So, what's on your garden? That's great! This morning, we will be tackling about planting vegetables. I have a procedure here on what is the right way of planting vegetables. Are you ready? So first, pick up the right location. Here are the tips on selecting the good area. First, we have the sunny spot. The most vegetables need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. There are few veggies, mostly the leafy ones, that will tolerate some shade. Second, drains well and doesn't stay wet. If you have poorly drained soil where water pools, plant veggies in a raised bed or raised row for improved drainage. Wet soil means wet roots, which can turn into rooted roots or the rotten roots. If you have rocky soil, till and remove the rocks, as they will interfere with root growth and make for weaker plants. Third, stable and not windy. Avoid places that receive strong winds that could knock over your young plants or keep pollinators from doing their job. Nor do you want to plant in a location that receives too much foot traffic or floods easily. Plant in a location that would make Goldilocks smile, somewhere that's just right. Lastly, nutrient-rich soil. Use soil beds your plant. If you have thin, nutrient-poor soil, you'll have poor unhealthy plants. Mix in plenty or organic matter to help your plants grow. Second procedure, plot size. If planting in the ground, 10 by 10 garden or the 100 square feet is a manageable size. Pick 3 to 5 of your favorite vegetables and buy 3 to 5 plants of each one. If planting in a raised bed, 4 by 4 or 4 by 8 is a good beginner size which covers the benefits of the raised beds. How to build a raised bed and what type of soil to fill a raised bed with. If you want to go a bigger, a 12 by 24 garden in the ground is probably the biggest a first-timers should go. For example, a garden that feeds a family of 4 could include 3 hills of yellow squash, 1 mound of zucchini, 10 assorted peppers, 6 tomato plants, 12 okra plants, and a 12-foot row of bush beans, 2 cucumbers on a cage, 2 eggplants, 6 basils, 1 rosemary, and few long-growing herbs such as oregano, thyme, and more joram. Whatever the size of your garden, every 4 feet or so, make sure that you have plants that allow you to access your plants to weed and harvest. Just make sure that you can reach the center of the row or bed easily without stepping soil. Third, in choosing vegetables, there are tips in choosing the right vegetable for your garden. Choose what you and your family like to eat. If no one likes Brussels sprouts, don't bother planting them. But if your kids love green beans, put more effort towards growing a big crop of beans. Second, be realistic about how many vegetables your family will eat. Be careful not to overplant, as you will only stretch yourself thin by trying to take care of than's plants. Of course, you could always give excess veggies away to friends, family, or the local soup kitchen. Next, consider the availability of veggies at your grocery store. Maybe you want to grow tomatillos instead of cabbage or cabbage, which are readily available. Also, certain veggies are so far superior in hometown. It's almost a shame not to consider them. We're thinking of garden lettuce and tomatoes. Also, hometown herbs are far less expensive than grocery store herbs. Next, be prepared to take care of your plants throughout the growing season. Going on a summer vacation, remember that tomatoes and zucchinis are growing strongest in the middle of the summer. If you're gone part of the summer, you need someone to look after the crops, or they will surely suffer. Or you could just grow cool season crops such as lettuce, kale, peas, and root veggies during the cooler months of late spring and early fall. Lastly, use high-quality seeds. Seeds that packaged are less expensive than individual plants. But if seeds don't germinate, your money and time are wasted. A few extra cents spent in spring for that year's seeds will pay off the higher yields at harvest time. Fourth procedure: when and where to plant. Here are the guidelines. Not all vegetables are planted at the same time. Cool season vegetables such as lettuce and broccoli and peas grow in cooler weather or early spring and fall. Warm seasons such as tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers aren't planted until soil warms in a late spring and summer. Plant tall veggies such as pole beans on the trails or sweet corn on the north side of the garden so they don't shade shorter plants. If you do get shade in a part of your garden, save that area for small, cool season veggies. If shade is unavoidable in parts of the garden, save those areas for cool season vegetables which appreciate shade as the weather heats up. Most veggies are annuals and planted each year. If you're planning on growing perennial crops such as asparagus, fresh barb, and some herbs, provide permanent locations or beds. Consider that some crops mature quickly and have a very short harvest period. Radishes, beans. Other plants such as tomatoes take longer to produce but also produce for longer. These days to mature are typically listed on the seed packet. Lastly, the stagger plantings. You don't want to plant all your lettuce seeds at the same time or the lettuce will need to be harvested at around the same time. Stagger plantings by a few weeks to keep them coming. Lastly, the tools gardening. We can use axe and other materials as you can see in the presentation. Have you learned something? That's good. What's on your mind after knowing the steps and tips in planting vegetables? Wow! Do you want to further exploration? Then, what we are waiting for? Let's go watch this video.
Hi, I'm Tricia, an organic gardener. Today I'm going to plant my transplants in the garden. Starting from transplants as opposed to direct seeding is necessary for most of the U.S. if you're planting long season crops like tomatoes. For other crops, you can get an earlier harvest and avoid seedling loss. For the last week or so, I've been hardening off my starts. That means I'm getting them used to being outside all day long. To harden off seedlings, take them outside and place them in a shady location for a couple of hours initially. Gradually increase their time outside and sun exposure until they can spend an entire day in the full sun. During the hardening off time, avoid fertilizing your seedlings. Gradually reduce the water they receive, but don't allow them to wilt. If you're buying your transplants from the nursery, there's a couple of things that you want to check out. Make sure you choose the ones with healthy green leaves. Look at the drainage hole and avoid ones with roots sticking out the drainage hole. They are likely to be root bound. Check the undersides of the leaves for white flies or some kind of aphid infestation. Don't buy infested seedlings. Transplants that are not flowering should be preferred over ones that have blossoms already. Some varieties of plants that work very well as transplants are peppers, tomatoes, and eggplant. Plants like squash, cucumbers, and chard are trickier to transplant, but with a little care can do well. Some plants, particularly root vegetables, and plants like beans and corn, do not take kindly to transplanting. If they are grown in a block, peat pot, or peat pellet that can be dropped directly into the ground, it is possible to transplant them, however. The best time to transplant is on a cloudy day like today, or in the late afternoon. Avoid transplanting when it's hot out, because that can put undue stress on your plant. You want to dig a hole about twice the size of the plant's roots. You want to disturb the roots as little as possible when transplanting. I like to use a tool like this widger that helps me get the transplants out of the planting trays. Backfill the soil, but don't compress it. If you're planting a soil block or a plant in a peat pot, you just plant them directly in the ground so the roots are not disturbed. Water with a high phosphorus starter fertilizer. I'm watering with Liquid Fish and Thrive Alive B1. A fish and kelp combo is a great starter fertilizer. The fish feeds the plant and the kelp with B1 helps reduce transplant shock. Just add some dry soil around the plant to replace the soil that has settled. Put something like a pot over your seedling to shade it for a day or so while it gets established. If you need some frost protection, this Agribon floating row cover really works well. And the Agribon Ag 19 is a thin, light, floating row cover, which is a great pest barrier to fend off aphids and cucumber beetles. Just remove it when the plants flower. You can also add something like this cutworm shield to protect your little plants if you have trouble with cutworms. Leave it on for a couple of weeks. Transplant some vegetables and grow organic for life.
Alright, the procedure and tips as well as pictures you all saw is about planting vegetables. These plants have positive environmental impact as well as it's a great way in saving the food expenses. It is also healthy and fresh. Now, based from the video you saw, what are the procedures in a harden of seedling? Very good. You can take them outside, increase sun exposure, or don't fertilize or reduce water. What are the tips in buying nursery plants? Very good. Healthy green leaves and avoid ones with roots or sticking out in drainage, etc. What are the examples of transplants? Very good. The eggplants, tomatoes, peppers. So what time is the best to transplant? Very good. You can have it late afternoon or avoid when it's not hot. So let's plant vegetables and grow organic for life. So based on our discussion, what are the procedures in planting vegetables? Very good, class. So what are the 4 locations? Very good. What are the suggested plot size? That's good. How to choose on what to plant? Yes, that's very good. So, when to plant? Yes, it depends on the desired vegetables as well as the temperature. So, what are the tools to be used in planting? Very good. We may use rakes, shovels, gloves, and etc. Excellent, class. Let's do a barangay club. Now you already know what is the right procedure in planting. You will be planting vegetables in our mini garden. You can choose any vegetables you have brought, and I will be giving you 20 minutes to do the activity. Here's the rubric for your art to be judged. Are you clear? Let's go to our mini garden. Are you ready? Your 20 minutes starts now. Work silently. Time's up. Now let's go back to our classroom. For me to test if you have really understood the lesson for the day, I've prepared a short quiz for you. Please prepare your pen and one whole sheet of paper. The test is divided into two parts. The test 1, you have to supply the missing statement with the correct answer, 1 point each. And test 2, explain in 50 words the two items, 5 points each. Answer directly, I'll be giving you 10 minutes for the quiz. Are we clear? You may start now. Time's up. Please pass your papers forward. I will be the one to check your papers. Thank you for listening and your participation, class. Goodbye, everyone.